Hey everyone, welcome to Queerly Recommended, the podcast where we recommend queer films, books, TV shows, and more. I'm Tara Scott, and I review sapphic fiction at the Lesbian Review and Smart Bitches Trashy Books. This week, I'm recommending a sapphic romance novel with an ice queen and a celebrity.
Love it. And I'm Kris Bryant, a contemporary romance writer for Bold Strokes Books. And this week, I'm recommending a Canadian TV series from 2020.
Thank you, as always, to everyone who supports us through our coffee, through our newsletter on Substack. We do have the links to both in the show notes. If you like what we're doing and you haven't rated us yet on any of the podcast apps, we would so appreciate it because we do appreciate every rating and review. If you want to do one more thing to help us out and you haven't done it yet, please make sure you tell a friend about the show so that they can get these recommendations too.
Yay.
So, speaking of coffee, I wanted to talk about a comment that came through there from a listener after our last episode because it was so fun and I thought maybe we should talk about it. They say, because of you, and then in brackets, well, mainly Tara, I now have all ice queens in my head looking like cats. Yes, it was a comment that stuck with me because it was so accurate. And I, an avid cat lover, now curse myself for not seeing it before. All ice queens are just cats, exclamation mark. So for anybody that didn't listen, the context for this is I recommended Lee Winter's new rom-com, Vengeance Planning for Amateurs, last time. And I said that I didn't think Margaret Blackwood was an ice queen. I said I thought she was a cat. But now I think we need to have this conversation.
I think so.
Because maybe I was wrong. Are all ice queens just cats?
I think there's some truth in that. Like, I have had cats in my life, like several cats in my life. Several cats in my life. Let's just go ahead for the record. Like, it is Monday, and my Alexa's going off because she thinks I said something to her. It is a Monday night. We are recording this, and yes. I just got back from dinner with KB where I had peach margaritas. So that's where I'm at.
It's going to be a great night.
Woo. Yes. So cats. First of all, how many cats have you had in your life? Did we have this cat conversation ever?
I've never had any cats. I have met other people's cats. I liked some of them. I did not like some of them. I liked the ones that liked me. I did not like the ones that would come up like they wanted me to pet them and then bite me for it. That was rude, I thought.
Yeah, cats are not dogs. Cats are not dogs. You just can't like pet. You have to let the cat come to you.
That's what I'm saying. It came to me. The cat came to me.
But even then, it's on their terms. Like, you just can't reach down like, hi, kitty. No, doesn't work that way.
The cat was a dick. But anyway, it does seem kind of sort of like something that an ice queen might do as well, right?
Maybe yes. I mean, both are aloof.
Yeah.
Very aloof.
Very aloof.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is it with most ice queens.
Unapproachable.
Yes. Very unapproachable, except maybe to the other lead character, the one that she falls in love with. But even then, there's usually a lot more unapproachability at first.
Right.
It's rare to have like an instant, I hate everyone except you. I don't know why, not you. Like, I don't think that story has been written yet.
Probably not.
I think there can be a relatively quick thaw sometimes.
Yeah, I think so. I love ice queens. Sure. I love cats.
Yeah, I know. I'm not sure about this particular character though, because I think the thawing actually began before the events of the book. And so it feels like she cares too much about the other lead too quickly for me to feel like, yes, this is absolutely unreservedly an ice queen. But if all ice queens are cats, if I say that she's a cat, I've basically said that she's an ice queen. So I've conceded my own point.
That's like one of those story problems. Like, if all cats are ice queens, are all ice queens cats? I think like cats are one step below ice queen.
Yes.
Well, and then there's the ice queen. Like, it goes cat, ice queen.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking, was that it's like she's not quite, but she's closer. And definitely I would say she's she's icier because Lee Winter almost always writes, or pretty much always writes, Ice Queens. And I never thought of Bess and Breaking Character as one. And like Sheena at the Lesbian Review, around and around and around so much on that one. She's like, no, she's an ice queen. And I'm like, she's absolutely not an ice queen. So I think the character from this new one is icier than her for sure, but lands more in the cat territory versus Bess, I think, is just British. Like,
Okay, so there's Ice Queen, Cat, and British. Like there's a ladder of
yeah, she's like British reserved. Like I don't think that's an ice queen. That's just being British. So yeah. Anyway, I love
That's a
her.
good
So
turn.
what do you all think? Are all ice queens just cats? Have we belabored the metaphor too much? Let us know. You can email us at podcast@queerlyrecommended.com or find us on any of the socials. We did actually have another question come through, though, from one of my really good friends. He's also been a super loyal listener of the show, Ed. He has listened to every single
Hi, Ed.
episode. He's the sweetest. I've known him for, God, like 20 years.
Wow.
And he'll come to me every so often. Okay, what should I be reading? And so I'll tell him kind of, these are my big books. This is what I think. And he recently got around to The Delicate Things We Make, which is the first book by Milena Mackay, and inspired him to ask us, what are a few of the first books by an author that were so good they made you slow down reading because you didn't want to finish them too quickly? So he mentioned that book. And then he also mentioned Anna Burke's first book, which if people don't know it, it's called Compass Rose.
Right.
It's fabulous.
It is.
And so I thought about it, and in spending I had to spend some time with my Goodreads actually, just to see like, okay, which authors have I rated highly? What could this be? Like when you read enough books, you have to go back and you need some kind of a help and a cue. So I use that, and I was able to come up with 3. Were you able to come up with any?
I came up with 2. Well, that's because, to be fair, you posed the question a couple days ago, and I completely forgot about it until after the margarita. And so then I had to draw from memory, and I came up with 2.
2 is
And you
still
had to
pretty
kind
good.
of, yeah, 2's pretty good. I'm sure there's a lot more. I'm just not in the right place. Maybe. I don't know. But I will
Well,
tell you the 2 that came to my mind immediately. We're talking debut books. So
yes.
the first one I have to say is by C.F. Frizell. It's Stick McLaughlin, The Prohibition Years. And I absolutely adored that book. It's a very thick book, and it obviously takes place like before Prohibition, during Prohibition, and I think a little bit after Prohibition. And basically it's about Stick, who is just a street kid, through Boston, trying to make it, and then making a name for herself. So it read like she just writes so beautifully, so eloquently, and I just loved it. It to me, when I was reading it, it played like a movie in my head. I could see everything so vividly. And I was like, oh my goodness, like this is her first book. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
I loved it. I thought it was great.
That's
And the
pretty
other
good.
one, the other one is by Anna Hartnett. And that was Changing Majors, like the first book in the Outer series. It was just, I loved it because it's first person, and people have such a love-hate relationship with first person. And she did I quoted her nonstop in that book. It was just wonderful. Absolutely beautiful. And when she visited here couple of months ago, she came in town and we hung out before the holidays, and I had her do a reading, just kind of like an impromptu reading of it. And it's just like, so everybody loved it. So
yeah, so
it's
good.
a great book. What about you? What are some that stuck out in your head?
So I feel like anybody who has been following my reviews for a while are going to roll their eyes because they're just not going to be surprised at all.
We could do a multiple choice, and I think everybody's going to get them.
Surprise. Yeah. So the first one, speaking of Lee Winter, her first book, The Red Files, I loved it so much. It felt so special. It's about these 2 reporters falling in love. There's so much more to it than that. But I think it was that there was so much to the story that was like hilarious, like kind of zany, but the romance worked so well. There was an interesting mystery to it, but the dialogue was so sharp and so
Mm,
clever that it
I love
reminded
it.
me of movies from the
Oh.
1930s and 40s. So it stuck with me, and it's not a perfect book. I mean, no first book is a perfect book, but there was just something about it that hooked me and I didn't want it to finish. And I went back and I've read it many times. The next one is Anne McMahon's first book, Jericho,
Mhm.
which it's a really interesting when you look at her body of work, it's quite varied. And Jericho
Mhm.
is it's a romance. You know, this woman comes to town, thinks she's straight, kind of just getting a divorce, meets the she's gonna be the librarian, meets the town doctor. Oh shit, she's not as straight as she thought she was. And it's this like cozy small town situation, very, very funny, lots of wonderful characters to it. And at a certain point, that series is no longer romance. So it's a series that starts with romance.
Mm.
It stays focused on the town and the people that are in it, but it's not a romance anymore, but it all works and it all makes sense. It's a great way to kick it off and to introduce people to that world. And then the last book that I thought of was The Music in the Mirror
Mm.
by Lola Keeley, which is her ballet,
Mhm.
her book set in the world of ballet. And that one,
Ice Queen.
yes.
Cat.
Huh? Yes.
Cat.
Ice Queen, definitely a
Cat.
cat. Oh my God. But like a scary cat, a mildly
Right.
scary
For sure.
cat.
Yeah,
And that
she
one,
was an Ice Queen. Ooh.
she was an ice queen. It was
Mhm.
so good.
That was a
Well, I
good
mean,
book.
there's an ice queen in the Red Files too. No, Ice Queen in Jericho, though. Sorry. That's
Mm.
2 out of 3, though. We're sticking with the theme today, I guess.
No Ice Queens in my 2 books, so not really.
uh
Sweet love in the books that I said
yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't want to end. Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of what it was for Jericho too. So thanks, Ed, for your question. Hopefully that helps, and
Yeah.
hopefully that gives you a handful more for you to check out. Although you've probably actually already read the ones that I suggested because I don't shut up about them. So you got 2 new
But
ones from
yeah,
Kris.
2 new ones. Yeah, very good debut books for sure.
Mm-hmm. So, Kris, what have
Yes.
you been reading or watching lately?
So I finished my first round of edits on my book, and so I decided to sit in front of the TV for like 4 days straight.
Yay!
Yay me. So I binged The Last Airbender on Netflix, which is really, really good. If you're
Mm-hmm.
into that kind of stuff. I remember the movie when it came out, I think like in the 90s or something. So this is an actual series that Netflix put out this year. And so it's like 8 episodes and it tells the story of The Last Airbender.
But it's like a remake of the Nickelodeon cartoon, right?
I'm guessing yes. I really don't know. I just watched it. I just was like, oh, I remember this movie from, when I was a kid. So I'm gonna see because I forget everything after 5 years. Like everything
Yeah.
is new after 5 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I was like, oh yeah, cool. Oh yeah, I remember this. And oh, I don't remember this. So I have no idea. I have no idea. I don't know the history of it, but it was good. And then a new Survivor series started. I don't know, we're on Survivor 189 or something, but
Yeah. Didn't the last season just finish like 2 weeks ago?
well, I'd probably say like maybe a month ago, but yeah, it
Hmm.
did. It just ended. So a new one started, so that's great. But like my big news is finally Rick and Michonne from The Walking Dead are back in their own spinoff. And
Oh,
I'm already stressed. I've seen 2 episodes and I'm like stressed.
what's it called? Is it also called The Walking Dead?
It's The Walking Dead and it's called the For Those Who Live. I don't
Oh.
know. Now you get see, I did Walking Dead. Let me Google this. It's if it
Okay.
says Walking Dead, I'm watching it. So that's all we really need to know.
Hmm.
The Ones Who Live, yeah, is what it's called. So The Ones Who Live. So like basically they've been searching for each other for years and years and years. And
Okay.
it's really hard when you're dealing with millions of walkers and you're trying to find like real people who are still alive.
Hmm.
So anyway, so this is their story and after like however many years, at least 6 years, they finally like run into each other.
Do you think, not for me, I'm asking for other people, but do you
Mhm.
think people who haven't watched The Walking Dead would be able to jump in at this point, or would they have to have seen it?
It won't. It'll just be like, meh. whatever. It's kind of like it's a love story, and you have been wanting this and needing this for years and years and years. I mean, we have like The Walking Dead has had several seasons without Rick. And
Mm,
then like the Daryl Dixon series came out, and then we had Fear the Walking Dead, and then we had the other Walking Dead, which was
The Last of Us. No, I'm kidding.
well, I watched that too, but
Yeah.
there's just so many different ones. And so finally we're getting Rick and Michonne. And I just want everyone to know that if in fact there ever is an apocalypse, humanity is fucked, because like I'm super stressed. Like I could totally see what is happening in that show happen in real life. And that is very scary. And so
Mm.
my faith in humanity is like dropping watching this. So
So
I don't know if that's good or
maybe
bad.
don't watch if you're not in a great place.
Yeah. But if you're like if you're a Walking Dead, I mean, here's the truth. Like if you don't know about Walking Dead, it's like,
Hmm.
you're like a kid or something. Like
Oh yeah.
everybody knows about The Walking Dead. And if you haven't watched it now, then, you have many years to watch. I mean, we're talking like there's several seasons of The Walking Dead plus different, spin-offs. So it will keep you busy for months and months and months. If you binge watch it like every weekend, it will keep you busy. You have a lot of catching up.
I'm not doing it. But I wish anybody who wants to do it well.
Like, I mean, the whole concept is just like, it's amazing. Like, if you think about it, like, Rick starts off and he's in a coma and he wakes up and like the world has changed. There are all these like zombies and he has no answers. And he's a sheriff of this small town and he's like looking for his family, and everybody's like a Walking Dead person, wants a person.
Yeah, I think
Can you
I might have
imagine
actually
that?
read some of the comics many years
Oh, I'm
ago.
sure. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I
So
find
it's
that
just
kind of
so
thing
fascinating.
easier. It's easier in print. Like I find the grossness easier to deal
Uh,
with.
it's pretty gory. It is
Yeah.
pretty gory.
I'm a
This one
baby.
woman, you are a baby. You are. This one woman at work, she's like, I could never get past the first episode because like Rick's on his horse. He's on a horse and he's like,
Hmm.
kind of not galloping, but he's like trotting through Atlanta, I think is what the city is. And there's all these walkers and they kind of take his horse and they like chew up his horse. And they show
Oh.
it. And so this girl's like, I can never
Ew.
watch it. I'm like, yeah, you can't watch it anyway, because that's not even bad. Like what happens
Yeah,
in future shows, like that is not bad. And I keep
that's
telling her
the
it's
litmus
TV.
test.
Yeah, I know. So it's like, yeah, don't watch it. Don't watch it. But I'm like, I can rewatch like the first season and the second season, but some of the seasons were just super hard. They
Mm.
were super hard to get through the first time, so I won't watch them again.
Hmm.
But it's I'm part of the Walking Dead family. I've been watching it for however long it's been on.
What would make
That's
you stop watching it at this point? Like, what would be your I can't do this anymore, you're dead to me show? No pun intended.
if they killed off like the people I like. And they do that a lot, but thankfully, I mean, I
Mm.
like them, but I mean, I'm talking like the core people.
Yeah.
Like that was the thing about The Walking Dead is you just watching it, you never knew who was going to die next. Like they kept it like tight. They kept it
Oh,
very tight. And so and plus I didn't read the graphic novels or anything, and I think they've surpassed those. So you didn't know like what was going to happen, who was going to die, and it was always a shock. Like, oh my gosh, like this main character died. This main character died. So it was always like, but you have hope. That's my word
yeah.
for this lifetime is hope. I've always had that word. And I feel like that's the one thing that's kind of keeping these small groups together is that there's hope. And so
Hmm.
I love that whole concept of trying to survive together.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
anyway, so yeah, so The Walking Dead is back on and I'm super excited. And then you and I have a lot to
Oh
discuss.
boy.
So I'm not quite sure if I managed to convince Tara to watch this or not,
You
but
did. You
did I?
absolutely
Okay.
did. It was you. Yeah.
So not only Tara, but several people in my office, I got them to watch Love is Blind season 6, US. It is a
Such
hot
trash.
mess. It's trash.
It's
And
enjoyable trash though.
it is enjoyable trash because I feel like this is one of those because that's right, we looked it up last time of the couples who are still together.
Yeah.
from previous things. And it's like a
Yeah.
really high rate of survival.
Far higher than I would have guessed. I think it was something
Right.
like 7 or 8 couples.
Yeah. Yeah. So Tara got to watch it. And so the funny thing is I'm all caught up. There's like maybe 2 more
Yes.
episodes. They're doing that drop a week every week. They drop a new episode.
Mm-hmm.
And so just like sitting back and waiting for the text messages to roll in. I'm like,
Oh
come
yeah,
on,
because
where are
I'm
we at?
not
What's
caught
going
up.
on?
I am on. Well, it's not showing me what episode I'm on. Holy hell! What episode am I on?
Oh,
I'm
you're
on the
on
one
only.
called "She Lied to Me." So they're in. No. I finished that one. I'm on the one called "Feeling Uncomfy." So they
Oh,
are in
yes.
the Dominican. Some fuck shit is going to go down for sure.
It
I told
just
Kris I
gets
want to
better.
yeet a bunch of these men into the sun.
It's, and I really, really like one couple and I truly believe they're going to make
Yeah.
it. And I just think they're adorable. And so it's stuff like that. It's people like that that
Mm-hmm.
do it for me, that give me like a hope. It's like, oh, I want to see this happen because how do you meet people anymore? Like, how do people
Oh
meet other
God.
people? It's
I have
super
no
hard.
idea. I have no
Like,
idea. I
my,
thought so the couple that you like,
Mhm.
I thought they were very boring when they were in the pods.
Yes,
They were
yes,
so boring. And I was like, oh, can I just fast forward past these people? They're so boring. And then they met the first
yes.
time. They saw each other. And then I
His
said,
reaction is awesome.
his
Like,
reaction is incredible.
it's
And hers
like,
is pretty good too. But him especially, it's like,
right.
oh, this is a future wife guy. He is going to be the biggest fan of his wife forever
Right,
and
for
ever.
sure. You can tell he was all
Mm-hmm.
in. He was already. Well, there was a scene where I looked at Deb and I'm like, he's a tool. Like at the very beginning, he did something or like he was flipping his hair. So I don't know what he was doing. He
Oh
had his
yeah.
longish hair. And I was like, oh, that's all I need. But then I started liking him and I liked what he had to say and the things he was telling. Is it Amy?
Yeah. Yeah. So
Amy.
it's
Yeah,
Johnny and Amy
Johnny
that
and
we're
Amy.
talking about.
Right. And so, and I loved her. I think she's so genuine and she's really in
Mm-hmm.
it for love. And I think he is too. And just like, if you don't want to watch the show, but you can actually go to TikTok or go to YouTube and see his reaction, Johnny seeing Amy.
So
It's
cute.
so sweet. It's so sweet. I loved it. I actually
And
saw
then
a
like
TikTok of it.
compare that to most of the others seeing each other for the first time. Like,
Oh, yes. Like we talked about the Megan Fox. I look like Megan Fox, but
oh, I felt so bad when I saw her because it's like I see why people said that. Like, if you had
yeah,
to
from the
pick a
eyes
celebrity
up.
doppelganger for her, yeah, she absolutely, her eyes are like Megan Fox's, but
Mhm.
she doesn't look like that. But then Jimmy's a piece of shit. And so
He
in
is
the
a piece of shit.
videos, he's like, she lied to me. She said she looked like Megan Fox. And it was like,
Uh,
my dude, she said people have told her, and apparently
right.
people have been really mean to her
You know,
about this. And it's like, it's not her fault that she's not Megan Fox and people have said this to her. Like, come on. She seems like a genuinely kind, lovely
no,
person.
she does not. She
No?
is a
Do things take a turn?
oh, I can't say. I can't
Things take a
say.
turn. Okay.
Drunk her is awful.
Oh.
Drunk me is fun. Drunk her is awful.
Yeah.
She is like, I don't know who I like least. Less. I don't like who I like less. Less?
Between him and her?
Yes, that's how bad it gets.
Really?
Yes. And one of the girls I work with, she's like texting me during the day. I can't believe blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. So you have to get caught up so we can chat.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to. Yeah, it's been interesting. There was a guy who, thank goodness, didn't end up with anybody because he sounded like a
Oh my
fucking serial
gosh.
killer
He
at one
did.
point. Like watching the way this man was gaslighting
It was
someone,
bad.
it was uncomfortable. I was watching it on my laptop. Neil was in the same room. He put his headphones in to listen to a podcast. He's like, I cannot do this. And he can't watch most of it. Like it just makes him uncomfortable watching these people be the way they are. But
Right.
that was the one time where I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. I feel like I'm watching somebody get psychologically abused and I
Right.
don't feel good about it. And then there's guys like one of them apparently had a girlfriend while he was on the show.
And you
Another one,
ruined it for me because he was one of the guys I liked. And then you're like, oh no, he's a total tool because blah, blah, blah. I'm like, stop.
but it was interesting because so I got spoiled on that before I was caught up. And so when I watched because he was one that Chelsea almost chose him,
Right,
right?
right,
Right.
right.
And so you see the way he shows up and the way he's talking about it. And when she chooses not him and how he responds to it, like he manages to crank out a tear or two, but it was like, oh, this is somebody who's like weirdly cool with being told that this woman
Yeah,
is
because
not
he's
as
like,
in
I
love
wish
with
you the
him.
best. And
Yeah. And it's
I've
like,
been a piece of shit. No, I wouldn't have done that.
yeah, no wonder why,
But
because he had a
I
gorgeous
cried.
girlfriend back home because they're both body lifter. Body lifter? No,
Probably
bodybuilders. Body
builders.
lifters is not a thing. I did not have a drink. And then Jeremy, I guess, had a fiance
Oh,
until right before the casting call. And so when
oh,
he's
I didn't
telling Laura,
know.
I've never felt this way about anyone before. And I'm like, really? Because I feel like
Like,
there's somebody who might disagree with your
you
evaluation of the
can't
situation.
hide from social media. There are too many amateur detectives out there who will find you. Like
Yep.
Debbie's daughter is a sleuth on the internet. She can find out anything about anybody. And we always like, if there's something going on, we'll send her like the TikTok, hey, solve this. Or if there's something going on in Kansas City, we'll send it to her. Maybe you should solve this because she's like really into that.
Mhm.
So there are a lot of people who will find shit out online.
Oh, 100%. We're gonna be putting her on the case for some future
For
reality
sure.
shows.
We need to find out things. And it's funny because usually she watches all the conspiracy, documentaries on Netflix, and which
Mhm.
are, you can only take in small doses because then you end up hating everything and everybody, and you hate the
Yes.
government and you hate people. And yeah, so I can only do those in small doses. But
Yeah.
I can watch things like Love is Blind because there's always going to be somebody on there I'm rooting for.
I didn't click through to actually read the article, but as I was putting together the most recent newsletter,
Mm-hmm.
somebody was, I think it might have been on Autostraddle, they were making the case for like why there should just be a lesbian Love is Blind. And the reason was basically U-Haul.
Yes, it's U-Haul. We call it U-Haul.
And
The U-Haul series.
I'm kind of here for it. I mean, it would just end up being another ultimatum queer love kind of level of
But
weirdness, but like that was fun.
at the same time though, you get all those lesbians, like they'll not look for partners. They'll be like hooking up in the rooms because they go into the
Oh,
pods. Like
yeah.
there's no way they're going to fall in love with each other in the rooms. Like
That's a
this shit's
great
going to
point.
happen. It
How
is. So
do
they can
you
never
do a
do
show
that.
like
You
that?
can't
You
unless
got to put
everybody
everybody
is
in
separate.
solitary.
Right. Right. And then they could only date, like, they can't be like a main person. You have to date like, wow, that's a tough one. Yeah. I don't,
So
it
it
would have
has
to
to
be,
actually just be like The Bachelorette
yeah.
and hope you don't end up with too many of them hooking up with each other.
Right. Because that's going to happen.
Hmm. I read a
Yep.
book with that one.
Yes, you did. Not too
Somebody
long
named Chris
ago.
Bryant wrote it.
Right. I know all the tricks of all the shows. Although
Mhm.
I still watch them. I'm still a believer.
I
Love.
love you. That's awesome.
Thank you. So what have you been reading or watching besides Love is Blind?
So, of course, still with the drag races. So, season 16 continues
Nice.
and it's good. I was really surprised in the most recent episode that I saw. There's a queen named Plasma who had won 2 challenges, was
Oh.
sent home.
Oh.
And I know it was shocking. Usually somebody who wins 2 challenges wouldn't be sent home, but it was a design challenge. They're like about halfway through the season. There have been 3 design challenges already so far. That is a lot. There's usually
Mm.
only 1 or 2 per season,
Wow.
but that's been good. I think my favorite part of the most recent episode was actually not even in the episode itself. It was in Untucked, which is kind of the whole like behind the scenes episode.
Mm-hmm.
It's where they film the queens while the judges are deliberating. So you get to see what the queens are all talking about. And I think I mentioned Plain Jane on a previous episode, how she's the one that was kind of choosing a villain edit for a while
Right.
and has
Mm-hmm.
since, been turning over a new leaf, as she said, and she's still
Oh.
stirring the pot sometimes. But everybody decided to get back at her because usually she gets a top placement of the episode and she ended up in like the middle safe zone. But everybody was like, no, you're going to be lip syncing. What if you went home? What if this was your first time in the bottom and you went home? What if you went home on a design challenge? Because She was really good at design before, and I'm not usually here for picking on people, but given that she's been such a bitch throughout the rest of the season, I was like, yeah, this is good. Cause she was like, no, stop it. Leave me alone. No. So that was a super fun moment. And UK versus the World season 2 has been really, really good. I love that it's an all-star style, so it's all people who've competed before,
Mhm.
but because it's people from different franchises, I've been getting to know people from franchises that
Oh,
I've
good.
never seen before. So getting to see, people from Holland, from the Philippines, from France, and it kind of makes me want to go. I don't think I'll watch all of the other ones, but it makes me want to at least go watch the France
Yeah.
ones. And maybe
We
Maybe my time in Duolingo relearning French has made it such that I can keep up with
you
the
can
subtitles.
understand.
Did I tell you about the time that I tried watching Drag Race France? It was the first season.
No.
I had COVID and my brain was so slow I couldn't keep up with the subtitles, so I had to stop.
Oh, really?
So
I
yeah,
have, yeah, it's when you listen to a foreign language and you happen to know a lot of it,
it
like,
helps.
no, it's
No?
awful. Because, so let me tell you, whenever I go to Germany and they have television on, they have TV on, like,
Mhm.
I might be in a conversation, but I'm trying to, like, my mind is going to translate what's on the TV. So I
Uh,
can't watch TV in other countries because my mind won't stop trying to, like, translate what's going on.
mm,
So I can't do it. So I would have to do volume off or something, or,
yeah.
I don't know. That'd be tough.
I just
That'd be
found the
tough.
subtitles were moving too quickly. But again, COVID, brain fog. What are you gonna do?
Right.
It's a thing. So yeah, I've been watching those. I've been watching Love is Blind, but we got into that.
Hmm.
And there's a new
Mm.
stand-up special from Taylor Tomlinson. Have you seen any of her stand-up?
Yes.
She's great.
Yes. Yes. I
Yeah.
just watched when Christina Rivers and her wife were here. We watched it on Netflix or something.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure
So
that's right.
this is her, yeah, because she has a couple on Netflix now.
Right.
This is her new one, whose name I can't remember. So we're gonna
Who
look
had the
it up.
margaritas?
I
Okay.
just finished it yesterday too, is the
Oh my
part that's
gosh.
annoying. But I wasn't paying attention to the name. So it's the one called Have It All. And what's interesting is that in that particular special, she covers kind of a lot of ground, but that's the one where she talks about how she has 3 queer siblings and
Yes.
they're all in these very happy queer relationships.
Hmm.
And she's been trying to figure out if maybe she's bisexual and what it's like dating women. And then it gets into religious trauma. And we kind of looked at each other at that point. It's like, oh, okay. Apparently she made a special for me today. That's really nice.
That's awesome. Yeah, that was the one that we did watch.
It's
That was a really good one.
really
Yeah,
good.
she's really
I
good.
We loved her special Quarter Life Crisis. But this is the one where you can really see the polish is there.
Hmm.
Like really, really polished, really good specials. So definitely recommend that. The only reason it's not an official recommendation is I read something I liked more. And also stand up is really hard to recommend because how do you recommend a stand up special? Like you can't say any of the jokes.
Right.
You can
You can
sort
just
of,
say, like, it was fun. They cover a lot of topics that I enjoy. I mean, it'd
and
be a
then you're
quick
done in 30
recommendation. Yeah.
seconds.
Well, I mean, hey, I recommend this. But yeah,
Yeah.
it is really good. I love it when it's so smooth. When you're watching
Mhm.
a comedy special and it's so smooth and transitions, you don't even realize you've moved on to a different topic.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was one of those
Mhm.
specials. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. It was very good.
Hmm.
So I enjoyed that. And then I read a novel. I read a romance. It is Lean Into Love by Catherine Lane. It is her latest. It's also her first with Bold Strokes books. Because I read a couple of hers that she did with Ilva Publishing before,
Mm.
and I enjoyed them quite a bit. So I was kind of looking at all the ones that were coming out from BSB and was like, wait, I recognize this name. Is this the same? It is the same
Mm.
author. And so Lean Into Love is a book that takes place in Hollywood. One
Mm.
of the leads is Ellis Turner. She's a talent agent. She has her own agency. And there's one kind of mega star in particular that she works with. And is like the kind of megastar that she also is sort of kind of a manager for, because when you have like one marquee client, sometimes you do more for them than you might for other clients. And this character's name is London. London is an out lesbian. She's kind of a player. She has this reputation for being a bit of a serial monogamist. But she has to stay scandal free because she's been signed up for this role that's absolutely career changing, but it's with a production company that originated out of kids, like producing things for kids. So they want people squeaky clean images. The other lead, so Ellis is the lead. Rory is the other lead. She's a chef. She's quite good. And she has a roommate named Maya who London picks up at a lesbian bar one night. And so the next morning, Maya's like, hey, can you come pick me up? She gets there at the same time Ellis arrives. Ellis tries to get Maya to sign a non-disclosure agreement because there clearly is going to be some ongoing situation here. And Rory steps in and is like, don't sign anything. Like, what are you doing? Because Rory hates everything to do with Hollywood. She's really cynical about the way that Hollywood works. But then Maya and London do end up in like kind of a relationship. And so Rory and Ellis are together all the time. It's inevitable that of course, they're going to have to spend time together because Ellis is always doing things for London. Maya is Rory's roommate. And it's kind of this like, given all the craziness around them and all the pressures and all of that, can they actually make a relationship work? There's a demanding star that's in the mix. There's the threat of scandals and sex tapes that comes up. How can they make that work? So I don't really think of this as a typical romance, but I found it really hard to put down. It's a bit more of an ensemble situation. So there absolutely is a romance between Rory and Ellis, and I think it's quite a good romance, and I really enjoyed it. But London and Maya are just a really large part of what drives the story. I wanted to shake the shit out of them all the time. They're sort of bratty and entitled in their own particular ways. And so is Rory has a sister who's also incredibly selfish. But I like the way they function with the story because it lets us see, like, okay, who are Rory and Ellis? How do they operate versus the people that figure quite prominently in their lives? I thought they worked well as a couple. It was kind of cute that, they start off very annoyed with each other when they first meet because they're meeting around this, like, what are you doing? Why are you trying to make this person sign this document? I can't believe that this is what's happening. But as they do spend more time around each other and they learn that, oh, you're not actually who I thought you were. You're not like that kind of first impression I had of you. The chemistry builds on that. So I think if people like stories that are set in Hollywood, and if you want something that's a little different from a typical romance, this would be a fun one to pick up.
Nice.
So Kris.
Yes.
What is your official recommendation this week from my home country?
Yes. So, my official recommendation is a show I found while speaking into the magic remote idea. I found a 2020 series called Nurses, and I picked it because it promised queerness and it's based out of Toronto. So, in honor of my Canadian co-host, I had to watch it. Yay! So, there have been 2 seasons. I think that's it. I don't think there are any more. There's just 2 seasons, and actually only one's available in the US. I just found that out. I didn't realize that there were 2 seasons.
Oh no.
I watched the first. See, it was just, I'll get to that, but I didn't realize that there was a second season that I can't watch.
Rude.
I know, super rude. So here is the synopsis. The series follows 5 young nurses working on the front lines of St. Mary's Hospital, dedicating their lives to helping others while figuring out how to help themselves. Okay. So it's very much like Grey's Anatomy. Have you seen Grey's Anatomy? Did you watch it at some point in your life?
No, can you believe it? I'm the one
You're the
person
only
who's
one.
never seen Grey's Anatomy.
Right. So it starts off like there's like a voiceover at the beginning and again at the end, and they intertwine and kind of like tie the whole from beginning to end. It just ties it together like every episode. Like there's a talk, it's for like 30 seconds, Most people believe that blah, 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 at the very end, it says the same thing, something a little different, but you're like, oh, that makes sense for the whole, episode. The first episode, I bawled. Like I bawled.
Really?
I cried.
Whoa.
And it was more for the words because there are five nurses. And so at the very beginning, they talk about, like, this voiceover talks about the heart of, this group of people, and or the nurses, the heart, and it has one person, and this person, the lungs that, do whatever. And it's just like the way they like compared the people, and the way it was written, it just sounds weird now that I'm saying it. But the way it was done, it was very clever, and I appreciated it. The thing is, there is a lot of death and people die because it is a hospital show, and it does focus a lot on ER, but it's also a show about relationships. Some are complicated, some are messy, but they're not over the top like Grey's Anatomy. Like, I had to stop watching Grey's Anatomy. I did. It just got, so I watched it, and I don't know how many seasons I watched it, several, but like, weird things were happening, and I just didn't like it. And one of the doctors, like, he was the biggest asshole on TV, and I don't remember his name. I don't remember anything. It wasn't McSteamy or McDreamy. It wasn't anybody like that. I think he was like the OR surgeon, and he had like Napoleon complex, and a helicopter like fell on him. And I was like, I'm so out on this show. I'm out. I'm done. I'm done.
So that's like, what it takes. A helicopter falling on somebody will get you to stop watching a show.
I'm just like, at that time, I didn't have time for that. I was like, I've invested too much time in this show, and I need to walk away.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to nurses. One character is queer. And by the end of season 1, she, Ashley, even has a steady relationship with an EMT that works for the hospital. And this EMT, like, I had to do a double take because she looked just like Toni Collette.
Whoa.
And I'm just like, wait, so what? And I actually never looked. I don't think it's her, but looks very much like her. And it was just very sweet. The relationship's very cute and fun. And I love the chemistry. You know how I am about chemistry.
Oh, yes.
It has to be believable. And I liked it. It was one of those where I was sitting there, and I was holding my hands, and I have them up to my face, and I'm smiling at the relationship. I'm smiling because it felt real. It felt really cute. I know. So, and like, that doesn't really come into play until I think the 3rd episode. But there's queerness because within the first 30 seconds, she jumps out of bed because she's late for work. It's like the first day. And she and her roommate are, he's another one of the nurses out of the 5. They room together. And she jumps out of bed, and you see that there's a woman in bed with her. And then she puts a note on the pillow. It says, "Let yourself out." So you kind of know what she's like at the beginning, but that kind of changes as the series goes and as she meets people and, gets to actually form relationships with people. So you see her growth for sure. And the thing that I think is interesting, that you will find interesting,
all right,
a lot of interesting, is that she was raised very religiously. Yeah, there's that. And so it's about her and her mother. Like, there's a scene that was just so good. She and her mom are talking, and she really wants to, she's around death a lot. She sees a lot of like relationships, a lot of people who like don't make it, some people who do make it. And it makes you like, maybe I really should mend the fences with my family. Maybe I should try to work with my relationship with mom. And so there's a scene where like something devastating happens, and she calls her mom. She goes, "I just wanted to check, just to tell you I love you, and I'm just checking on you." But they don't have like an everyday relationship. And the mom finally shows up at her work, just like shows up. "I'm in town. Your sister's trying on wedding dresses. We really want you to come to the wedding." And she's like really frustrated. Ashley's very frustrated because her mom just isn't listening to her. Like, doesn't want to believe that she's queer, that she has a girlfriend, that just her lifestyle exists. So they have lunch, and the mom sits there and prays. "I pray for you to find happiness. I pray for you," like all this stuff. And she's like, "I am happy. Like, why can't you see that?" And so there's that struggle. That's really hard. It's a struggle between, do you keep your family you're born into, keep it just because you just have that bond, or do you let it go? So she's struggling with that relationship. And the way it's done is, you think it's kind of a compliment from the mom, as she's talking and she's praying, you're thinking, well, that's kind of nice. And then it gets kind of weird and you're like, okay, that's not so nice. So yeah, their
Uh-huh.
relationship is
Weaponized
complicated.
prayer.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's a tough relationship and they both want to love each other and do, but they just can't accept who they are,
Mm-hmm.
respectively. The whole series isn't super queer, but there's enough to keep me interested.
Yeah.
And it was like, it wasn't super like angsty. It's not Grey's Anatomy. It is the
Mm-hmm.
Canadian softer version of it. Because y'all are nicer, than we are. So it's the nicer, softer
Mm-hmm.
version. And here's another thing. This is one of the reasons why I liked it, is because I know zero about the healthcare system in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Like I couldn't challenge any of it. Like I couldn't challenge it. So, I'm like the person who you hate to watch movies with or series with, because I'm always like, you can't do that. That's
Yeah.
illegal. That's not right. That doesn't make sense. I
Yeah.
mean, that's not correct. I am that person. I'm that asshole to watch things with, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm not looking for it, but if it's really obvious that can't happen, I'll just like turn like that can't happen. That's not right.
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't in Canada because I'm like, I don't know what's going on. So I got to enjoy it. I don't know. Can a
Uh-huh.
17-year-old donate her kidney? I don't know. I can't believe it because I
I
don't
don't
know.
know that either, actually.
See? So, yeah. And another thing I loved about it is that there are a lot of recognizable Canadian actors. Like you and I kind
Mm-hmm.
of talked ahead of time, before the podcast, and
Yeah.
I joked about like there's 80 Canadian actors, and they're
About
like
that,
they
yeah.
make they make the rounds. So Rachel Scarston, who played Tamsin from Lost Girl, she was in it, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, that's Tamsin." And also Baron Serenga, who played Jeremy on Winona Earp, is in there for several
Mm-hmm.
episodes. So it was really cool to, see a show that had characters from previous shows that I watched. It's kind of
Oh,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
Canadian TV for you.
that's Canadian TV. So it was just that was really nice. That was a nice surprise. I wasn't expecting that, because a lot of times I will just go into something and not look or read.
Mm.
I'll just turn it on. Like, let's see if I'm interested. So Nurses, season 1, I need to figure out how to get season 2. I
Mm-hmm.
might have to buy it somewhere. I don't know, but I'm invested. Why
That's
not?
good. That's a great sign.
I think so. So that is my official recommendation. What about yours? What is your official recommendation?
All right. Mine is the new romance from Clare Ashton called Tempting Olivia.
Mm.
This is the second in her Oxford romance series. It's a follow-up to Meeting Millie, which I have not read, but you
Oh,
have because you
yes.
recommended it
I
last
did. I
year.
did.
But I can safely say it doesn't matter if you've read it, if
Mm.
you've read Meeting Millie or not, because I thoroughly enjoyed this book. It even made me cry, and it didn't matter that I hadn't read Meeting Millie at all. What was your impression of Olivia in that book?
Loved her.
All right.
You want more?
Okay.
Okay. Um, I mean, Millie was obviously like the opposite, sort of. It was
Mm-hmm.
kind of an opposites attract, and like very, I don't want to say stodgy, but kind of very proper.
Oh, very, very proper.
Yeah, very proper,
Yes.
very careful. There are people
Mm-hmm.
out there who are very careful, and I think that she's a very careful person.
Yeah.
Um,
So Olivia is the lead, Olivia Sakdiva, and she's a lawyer. She's high strung. She's closed off. She has impossibly high standards for everyone. So to stick with the theme for this week, she's an ice queen.
there you go.
But she has one way that she likes to let off steam. Almost nobody knows. Her friend Charlotte knows, but it's watching
Oh.
movies, and especially movies with her favorite actress and major crush, Kate Lawrence. And she doesn't want to know any details about Kate Lawrence. Like, she doesn't like to learn about the private lives of celebrities because she's afraid it would ruin her ability to enjoy the performances as they are. So it's like,
Ouch,
let me just have
stop
the
it.
performances. I don't want, I know, but remember,
Google like everybody else does when we become infatuated with an actress. Come on.
she's so rigid with how she does everything. It's so funny. And especially this kind of thing, I was like, really? Okay. And of course, what I love is that this is completely blown to hell when Kate, the multi-time Oscar winner Lawrence, shows up at Olivia's workplace And her brain has this like massive record scratch because Kate needs a divorce lawyer and Olivia has come highly recommended from
Oh,
multiple friends. And so despite Olivia's best efforts where she's like, are you sure? Maybe not me. It should probably be someone else, right? Like a better lawyer, like a different lawyer. Kate insists on working with her. And so Olivia has no choice but to get to know one of the greatest infatuations of her whole life. And of course, you know, Kate is not looking for romance. She just wants a
of course
no mess
not.
divorce from her wife. And she wants to keep happily co parenting her two kids with their dad. But the more time she spends with this lawyer, the more she realizes that there's something kind of behind that icy exterior. She thinks of her as her frosty lawyer quite a lot, which I think is very cute.
Frosty, I like it.
I loved this book
Mm,
so much. Like so
mm,
much. I've read almost everything that Clare Ashton's
mhm.
written. I think Meeting Millie is the only thing I haven't read yet. I've been banging on for years about how Poppy Jenkins is my favorite and it's
Right.
one of my favorites, but Tempting Olivia has finally toppled Poppy
Look at
Jenkins
that.
as my favorite Clare Ashton book. I never thought it would happen, but it did happen.
Yay.
And I
I'll have to
think
read it.
it's so good, Kris. It's so good. I mean, here's the thing. I
Mhm.
love celebrity romances.
Oh,
I
yes.
love ice queen romances. I also like that this goes back to a theme from the Anita Kelly book that I recommended
Mm.
recently,
Mhm.
which I can't remember if the title is How You Get the Girl or How to Get the Girl. I think it's How You Get the Girl, where it's somebody who gets to meet and fall in love with somebody they've had a crush on for years and years and years. It
That would
turns
be so
out
much fun.
it turns out that's a premise I love. And so to read
Yes.
two of them in 1 month, like it just, what a gift. So I'm going to end up talking more about Olivia than Kate because Olivia is really the one who has the major character arc here. I don't think in every romance that both leads need to have a massive character arc. I just don't think that's always
Right.
necessary.
Right.
Sometimes
Yeah.
there's just one that she just has more growth to do than the other one. And in the case of Kate, rather than having to do all this character growth, it's more to do with sorting out her life circumstances. Like she has
Mm.
enough going on there. She doesn't need to go on a big ass emotional journey on top of all of that. But Kate is so focused on getting the divorce. And Olivia is so just closed off as a human being that the chemistry builds very slowly in this one. And like, I know how you feel about chemistry, and I also agree that
Mhm.
chemistry is important. And I think this book
Mhm.
absolutely has chemistry, but given sort of the professional relationship, it
Mm.
just takes time to get there. And I like that because I think a rush to romance wouldn't make sense for somebody who's closed off and somebody who's trying to get their life sorted out anyway.
Right.
To have this like insta love would not have made sense in this
Mhm.
particular case. And so I really like that we get to see the feelings sneak up on them before
Mm.
they even realize that it's happening. And it makes sense because they start off with a professional relationship with Olivia being Kate's lawyer. So I checked in with a friend, one of my best friends is a lawyer, and I checked in with her to get her take before, because I was like, please tell me I'm not recommending something problematic. I think it's probably not, but like, I just want to be sure. And so I told her sort of the situation of how it went down and the events that happened. And yes, they do things absolutely by the book, the way things
Good.
are supposed to happen. Not surprising because Olivia is she's a by the book kind of
Mhm.
person. But this was a really good way to explore what a semi taboo relationship starting place can look like,
Mm.
because a lawyer and a client should not be in a romantic relationship. And so, at the risk of a little spoiler, but I think there are people who would like to know this kind of information before it goes anywhere. As soon as Olivia figures it out, she fires Kate as a client and gets her she hands her over to a different lawyer.
Mm.
That is what lawyers are supposed to do. That is
Right.
not what lawyers always do, but
No.
she's she's very responsible with it. So thank you to my friend lawyer Jen for confirming. Well, she's not just lawyer Jen. Thank you to my friend Jen, who is a
Thank you,
lawyer,
Laura
who
Jen.
confirmed that detail. But I think it is fun sometimes to read books that start with that kind of sort of taboo starting place.
Mhm.
But it can be just like weird or icky if you have, say, like a therapist and a patient or a student and a teacher, where like,
I've written both. Ah!
yeah, You wrote a therapist and their patient?
Well, yes, touch. But it was a
No.
physical
I mean like a
therapist.
psychologist. No,
No.
no, physiotherapist is fine. I mean like a
Okay.
psychologist and their patient.
No. I have
No,
not
that
written
one's
that,
fine.
nor will I.
And even I don't know, your student teacher one was fine.
Hey,
It's less fine when it's
right.
like a teenager.
Right. No, she was 25 or something.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought there was something good there. And I liked seeing how this extremely ethical character behaves and how her strong sense of ethics carries through the rest of the book. And I'm not going to give any details about it, but it's actually like because of that was that one scene where I ended up crying and I was like, oh, fuck you. This is
Oh.
so rude. This is so rude. You're making me cry on a Sunday afternoon. It's so rude. How dare you? I also thought there were other aspects of Olivia that was really interesting. So yes, she's definitely an ice queen, but at one point they talk about how Charlotte has ADHD, which if you read the first book is probably not going to be a surprise
Mhm.
if you've had ADHD people in your life, and you have because I'm one of them. Haha. So they sort of have a conversation about that, and Olivia is surprised, and Millie is kind of like, come on, let's be honest. There's probably a bunch of us in this friend group that are neurospicy. And when she said that, it was so gratifying because I just kept wondering, is there something with Olivia that perhaps she may be one of us, some kind of neurodivergent who can say, hey. And I also, as an aside, I really liked that conversation about ADHD and how it works. And like it just felt very true to my experience and finding
Mhm.
out as an adult and just feeling better and everything making more sense when you can accept that that's a part of who you are. But Olivia also, she really doesn't like to be touched by anyone. She doesn't want her mom to hug her. She doesn't want her friends
Mm.
to hug her, sort of for the most part. And that also extends to like sexual relationships. And again, no label is applied, but she's probably demisexual. So somewhere on the asexual spectrum, in that she has to get to know someone really well before she can actually be romantically and sexually attracted to them. And so there's this one little quote that I quite like that summed it up really well, where it says, she wasn't a prude, but she didn't want people's paws all over her until she was sure those were the right hands to
Oh.
touch her, which is why she really can't fathom the kind of sexual freedom that Millie had
Right.
before she was with Charlotte, because she's not wired that way. And so it comes across as judgmental, but it's truly just something that she can't understand. And it actually turns out she explains at one point that that's true of her friendships too, because it takes time for her to grow to like people. But when she does, they're very important to people. And so I loved seeing the way Olivia just grows and opens up to Kate when they are finally together,
Mm.
because it's like we meet a whole other person. And like Olivia gets to meet a whole other side of herself that she didn't get to have access to before. And eventually we get to see that influence extend to how she interacts with the other people who are closest to
Mm.
her in her life, like her friends and her family. And it just made me so happy. And it was really beautiful. And I mean, I guess just a couple other things, and we're gonna close this off. I feel like I've been rattling on for too long because I'm too excited about this. And I'm not even getting into some of the stuff I'm excited about because it would be too spoilery. That's
Right.
how you know I love it, when I'm like, I want to spoil you all on all this stuff,
No.
but I am a responsible critic and I will not
Yes, you
do
are.
that. I'm not an asshole. I just want to be. But before the first sex scene, they have a conversation about testing statuses, which
Yay.
I love.
You do.
I think it's such a great way to do it. And especially in sapphic romance, it's not as easy as in like male female romances where you just pull out a condom, right? So like I don't need people pulling out different devices or whatever, but just to say like, hey, I tested, I
Mhm.
haven't slept with anybody since the last time. Like it's just a really nice, great way to bring it as an awareness to the reader. And it didn't come across as weird or extra or unsexy. In fact, it made sense because Olivia said it and she's the most conscientious person on the planet. Of course, she would check in about this before she has sex. Also, also,
Mm. Mm.
in the epilogue, it becomes clear there is a hint
Mm.
at another book where the leads will be Charlotte and Olivia's mothers. And I am so fucking excited. I hope that happens because it is going to be on fire because these two people don't like each other, except don't they? Maybe. Who can say? There's a moment that makes you question. So please write that book. Please, please, please. Because there's another scene where, like, when Charlotte's mother first shows up in the book, and I actually, my heart started beating faster because it was just this like, oh, hello there. You will pay attention to me. And it's like, I need a book with this woman. It has to happen. So yes, I feel like I could still say more, but we would be here all day. So to sum up, I loved it. I cannot recommend Tempting Olivia enough. It's just so damn wonderful. Go get it. If you love it too, find me on the socials and we'll talk about it. That's all I got.
It's a lot. I'm going to read it.
Yay!
You encouraged me. Yes.
I'm sure you love it. And I can't wait to talk to you about it. That is all for this episode. Thank you so much for joining us. If you've enjoyed the episode and you haven't subscribed on your podcast app, please make sure you hit that little subscribe button so you get notified when we release an episode. Like I mentioned before, if you have a friend that you think would like the show, please tell them all about it. And if you want to support us, we do have links in our show notes to our coffee and our newsletter sign up on Substack, where you can choose to have a paid subscription. This just goes towards covering the costs of running the show.
Or if you want to connect with us on your favorite social media sites, we have links in the show notes for that as well. Or you can just search for Queerly Recommended on most social media sites or email us at podcast@queerlyrecommended.com. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.